software. Today I'm going to do a disassembly for repair and maintenance on this double eagle M923A or DEK762. Hey guys, welcome back. If you do enjoy this content today, please do consider liking, commenting, subscribing, because those interactions help me get seen by the YouTube algorithms. That helps the channel grow. You want to support the channel a little bit more, my socials are all linked on the Linktree link down below, including my Discord. Please do come by and say hello. I'm on there quite a bit. If you want to support the channel at the top level, the join button down below will take you to channel memberships. That will be 99 pence a month, or a pro equivalent in your country. I am losing my words today. Custom videos, custom giveaways, your own chat section in my Discord, and a little bit of a say in the running of the channel. Got there in the end. Okay, so we're going to get straight into this disassembly then, and we're going to see what sort of makes it tick. Now, the front sights, I did talk about to remove these. You're just going to need a hex head. The screw will have to come out fully for this to come off, and the rear sight is exactly the same as well. The muzzle brake, muzzle cone is just, there's no grub screw or anything, it just unscrews off. There is a bit of a plate behind it, so make sure that you don't lose that. For now, I'm going to leave that off. That's not come out yet, because we're going to take this rail unit off. I'll take the magazine out as well. So we just need a Phillips head in there. Go a chunky one. Nope. That's not good. So let's just try a flat head. There we go. Now I've just realised what I actually should have used was a socket. A flat head did work, but a socket would have been better. So that's just a metal screw, came out of that right hand side. Now that should, and it does, just allow the whole front end to just come off. Now here we've got a little grub screw there and a grub screw there. That will release this gas block. This barrel nut then can be untightened. Oh, came off really easy then. Untightened. Excuse me. And another front end can be fitted if you so choose. So I'll put that back on. Nice and easy. I'll drop that back in place and I'll tighten that down. Before you say, yes, I know I've damaged the screw, stupid Pheas. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to push this front pin out here. Now, I was hoping to just push it lightly. No. So I'm just going to take something out to tap it through with. There we go. Now this front pin on an AR type is always got like this D shape to it. So the D shape sits on this side, and I can already see the upper is splitting. So I'll put that out of the way. I'm just going to gently pull that forward. I might have to pull the charging handle stuck on something. There we go. So it was stuck on the forward assist, not forward assist, I apologise, on the bolt release. So I just had to click it, and I'll show you where that specifically is going to be an issue. So that slid off. Now there is the bolt release there. So I just had to drop it down so it wasn't catching on the parts it should be catching on anyway. So I just had to hold that in and it slid off nicely. So I'll put that out of the way for 2 seconds and have a look at our hop unit. Look how diddy that barrel is. That barrel has no right to throw out the range it was throwing out. So I'm going to put the hop fully on. Again, it's turning down for hop. That is the hop fully on. There is some sort of like, trying to think of the word, I can't think of the word, what kind of shape the, can't even tell properly off my, there we go. Can you even see that? Move that out of the way. There you go. It is shaped. It was absolutely flying BBs out to absolutely insane ranges. I was so impressed. And at that kind of sort of sizing, it had no right to be that good. So, you know, excellent rubber in there. Really impressed. There goes the plate off the front. So I'll just put that on. If it does come off, there is a taper to it. The sort of lower end of the taper needs to go down. I'll screw that back on now because we're here. So that's that assembly there. What I will show you actually while I'm here is this is the traditional style of charging handle. So the charging handle has got a little hook there. It's got a spring on the end of a hook in there that screws in. That is the typical style of charging handle. So generally speaking, if this is really loose and floppy, it's probably because somebody has either broken this spring or extended it beyond its means. So obviously keep that in mind. Put that back on. The spring on there is tapered as well. There's a tighter end and a wider end. The tighter end goes towards the hop unit. Slide that back in. Again, I am super impressed with what that was able to put out yesterday when I was doing the shooting test. So I'm going to click those in. I'm going to remove that stock. Nice looking gearbox shell, well cast. We've got radius in to stop the cylinder sort of directly putting pressure on those corner points, so it's more distributed pressure. It is vented. We've got a standard looking DE piston in there. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this battery compartment, and there is an Allen key hex head down there. So I'm going to get my extender bar. So I've got my extender bar. I'm going to try a Torx 20 first. Now the reason I'm using Torx, even though it is an Allen key, is because I find that at times Allen keys just round out and they damage the screws and they're a pain. I find that Torx, it's much more difficult to do that. So they will sort of work with each, well, the Torx will go in Allen key heads or hex head bolts. So I'm just positioning it in there. That's too small. Try a T25. I think this is going to be the one. And it is the one straight away. So I'm just undoing that. There is our teeny tiny little retention lug. So if this does come out, it's got indentations, those go in. These should be facing you if you're looking down that hole. Put that out of the way. This should now just easily just float off. Nice and simple. That's good. Next thing we're going to do is going to remove the base plate. I love that it's one of those big chunky brass motor adjustments. I'm going to try, what's that, a T10? Nope, touch big. Going down to a T8, just double check it is T8. It is a T8, so a T8 on the Torx 8 on the two hex head screws on the bottom. Again, I've gone Torx because they tend to not round out in the screw heads as easily as hex head do. Maybe I'm just buying really cheap rubbish hex heads. So that comes up and off, and then we've got access to our motor. So I'm just going to use a little screwdriver head just to pick that up. So the black wire is at the front, it comes round and it goes down the back of the pistol grip. The red wire is at the back and it comes across and down this back side of the pistol grip. I assume there is our standard looking motor. I am right, the black wire goes down and it comes round to the front and then into the gearbox. So I just need a long Phillips head to get those out. Not even a long Phillips head. Largely speaking, going to try and keep those screws in there just to save myself hassle later. Those two screws are in the what we call the standard position, so they're in this bottom corner here and this top corner here. Right, so I've kept both of those screws in there. Now I'm not going to rag up on this. I'm just going to gently pull down until I can see that the wires are at the bottom of the pistol grip, and then I'm just going to manipulate them out because I don't want to rip the spade connectors off. Need to look after those. Lay that on there. Next, I've got a pin here and a pin here, and I need to look at how do these come out. I suspect they are VFC style, which I will explore in a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push that trigger pin out, which I was right. So the trigger pin has got teeth on this right hand side there. So just push that out. If I push this out, now traditionally if this was normal, this would just lift up. It is not budging. which means, oh, there is a retaining clip on that though, which is quite nice. Oh, I've also not, come on Pheas, I've not even removed the, is that a T6? It's T8, it's too big, let's try T6. So we've got a hex head or Allen key bolt in the selector. I'm probably going to need to remove the cutoff as well. So remove that, there's a little screw. The button's wedged on the, wow, it's really wedged. There we go. So just pried it out. There's the latch, there's the button, there's the spring. I am going to have to disconnect this, or does it just lift up? It lifts up with that. Again though, it's not going anywhere. I'm pretty sure it's anchored on that. So I'm gonna have to remove a screw here and a screw there to get this assembly out. So I'm pretty sure that's an 8, and it is a Torx 8. So we need a Torx 8 on this left hand side. Now I've got my thumb on the selector, because what I don't want to happen is when I lift it, it's not too bad. It's not just a ball bearing, it's a little tiny notch on a spring. Again, I'm going to keep those together. I'm going to flip it over. It is the VFC style selectors. Oh yay, woo. Again, got that Torx 8 in there. I am struggling to get that undone. And it is rounding a little bit. That might be my Torx 8 bit. Let's see if I've got a fresh one. So I've got a fresher one. Let's see if this is any better. Nope. So this time I've got a number 2 hex head. Nope, that's still not letting go. Got it. So what I did is I just leant to an angle, put a fair bit of pressure in, and it just needed to get past the initial sort of tightness, and then there it comes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I keep this entire selector separate from the other selector. I don't think there's a clicker under this. There isn't. I'm going to keep it separate though. But they are 2 different styles of selector, so they won't go into each other's. We have got as well, which is nice. I'll show you in a second. What I'm finding is this rear body pin is in the way, so I'm just going to point it up like that. I'm just going to fetch this little tool in, and I'm going to remove this little clip in here. It's easy to put back, and I can pull that out. So I'm then going to manipulate that. Probably needs to come, oh no, there's another screw there. So I've got a thin little Phillips head. There's a little screw down in there that's retaining this in. I forgot about this. I mean, it's a little bit fiddly. I mean, don't get me wrong, these things shoot lovely, but they're a little bit fiddly. So I'm just going to wobble that up. There's the plate coming out. There's the gearbox coming with it. Just going to have to pull a little bit on the back. Pull forward. That is all coming out. There we go. Well, that wasn't easy or as glamorous as I was hoping. There's the selector off that side. We'll deal with that when we're reassembling. Here's our gearbox. Here's the part of the cut-off mechanism that just gets pulled down by that lever. So we've got a little screw there, and we've got a spring that sits into this hole here, loops round and underneath here. So I'm going to remove that first because we need that out of the way. There they go. We'll show you that shortly. We've then got this combination that we need to split apart. So I'll just get little flat head. I'm just going to gently just wiggle my flat head under there and just pry and pry and pry until it comes apart. Now this time it came apart the rod and one axle there, the axle and that cog there, and that cog was that side. This cog, that is the orientation, which we'll come back to shortly. Take that out because we're going to lose it anyway in a moment. Right, so we need, I'm guessing, no, it is a 10, an 8. I want to say Torx 10. Before we do, there is our quick change spring. So it is push in, twist, quarter twist, either way, and it comes out. So there is our very substantial metal bearing base spring guide. Now as springs compress, they want to twist. So the bearing on there allows it to twist, keeping it healthy. I don't actually know if it has an effect on FPS or not. But good substantial one. We've actually got, I don't think this is the original spring, I think this is a downgrade spring, but we've got a tighter coiling at the back, which means it's technically non-linear, but in this case the tighter coiling at the end goes on the spring guide. So now we've lost all of the sort of pressure that's in there. I'm free to just drop these screws out. The top ones, might change to top 10. 10 on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So put those together. I'm just going to hold this cylinder down while I pull on the gearbox casing to separate it. And up it comes, and there it goes. So I have seen there, show you, we did have a shim. So a little washer that sits on the gears has just jumped off that gear onto there. So obviously watch carefully for that. I'm going to push that back and up and out and pull all that cylinder assembly out. There we go. There's the top half of our MOSFET. So just show you the underside of that. So you got your just broken. This little range here detect the trigger movement, and then we've got various other sensors and microcontrollers on there as well. The gear set looks fairly standard. It's an attempt has been made to shim it. It sounds pretty smooth. It sounds loud because of the cone mechanism that's on the front, not mechanism, the cone on the end of the barrel. But it sounds smooth like I've come to expect from Double Eagle. So pretty bog standard. If you need to remove this chip, there is a screw underneath the trigger. You just lift the trigger out and you can access that screw. In terms of the compression, it is vented. What I'm going to do is, it's only a 3 metal tooth. I think that's standard actually. I'm getting it confused with double bell. So what I'm looking for is I put my finger on there and I should only be able to get this in so far, and instantly there is pressure there. Excellent air seal on that, which is good. I'll add the air nozzle and tappet plate on. So this pulls back the air nozzle that allows a BB into the hop chamber. This comes back forward. The piston then fires and compresses the air out the front. So if I put that on, I'm checking. There's a bit of leak, which you would expect, but still excellent compression in there. So to reassemble then, we're going to put this spring on this tappet plate in that orientation. I'm going to put it on this little pin here. These two lug holes are going to sit on this and this when the upper comes back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook the spring on first on that little peg. I'm going to stretch the spring, which is going to fight me a little bit because it wants to. I'm going to make sure that, there we go. What I have done is I've turned the gear set a little bit. I'm going to wind it back a little bit so it's, and I'm going to open that back up. So what I've done is, shims are falling off all over the place. What I've done is I've just allowed this to move out of the way of this tappet plate. There we go, that's now sat in its track properly. Push that spring down. So that now freely moves in its track. The piston is in its runners. These teeth are not interacting, and this spacer part is not pulling on the tappet plate. So it's going to make my life easier to rebuild this system. So I've got the anti-reversal latch here. I'm going to reseat the spring on it properly. What this does is it pushes against again, we'll get the shims back on. It pushes against this gear to stop the gear set unwinding, and you would know if there was something wrong because you would get like a funny unwinding noise from your gearbox when you've stopped shooting, and it's really quite an unusual sort of unwinding noise. So just position that in, so that gear set is all sat down now, safe. I'm now going to put this back down. I'm going to put the other half of the shell on. So what I always do is I've come on from the front, just wind that out of the way. I come on from the front and sort of roll it backwards, positioning, wiggling it around a little bit on the gears, because they should more or less self-locate because there's no pressure in the gearbox. Make sure the wires are safely in their track, they're not getting nipped, and it should pretty much go flush all the way around the seam, and it has. So now I can screw everything back down and we can move on. Oh, helps if I remember to put the chip in, doesn't it? Come on guys, somebody could have told me. There's that shim again off that one. Put the top part of the chip back in. Again, all the pins are in specific places that they line up with the black connector blocks that are sticking up. There we go, everything's all right. Roll them from the front, wiggle it about till the gears go in, perfect. And now we'll go again, dropping those screws in. I'll be back in a second. So just finishing this up, slight disclaimer, yes, I am clumsy as anything, but I'm also trying to do this float in the air as well, which makes me even more clumsy. So anyway, just as a fair warning, when you are reassembling, this cylinder should be basically flush with the gearbox. It shouldn't be like separating, and you know you've got it right because there'll be no sort of gap around here. You shouldn't have to really force this shut, it should just nicely clamp shut. So we've got the shell in, we've got the screws back in. We're now going to bring the spring in, again the tighter coiled section on the back. It's just going to wiggle in. All I would have needed to change the spring was probably just taking the back retaining lug out. In fact, let me just double check. Yes, all I needed to take out was the retaining screw. I wouldn't have even needed to take the full stock off. So that goes in a quarter turn, and there we go. It should come out at the back like that, nice and flush, and our line should be horizontal across the gearbox. Next thing we're going to put on is we're going to put on the little cut-off system. So with this one, we've got a little arm that goes down there. We've got the coil that goes around the loop there, and then we've got our part here that just hooks on that, and we're going to just basically drop that there we go. So it should be pushing it up, and I can see it's nice and springy. I'm going to bring the tiny little flat screw in. Must be that one. Tighten that down, so I'm just checking it stays up, and that's where it should be. It should be retaining that up position. And there goes the spring, pinged off, pinged too much. Let me find that. I was actually really lucky then that I heard where it had gone. So what I'm going to do is try this a slightly different tack this time. I'm going to put the spring under the arm and then loop it around there and then drop it into the little hatch there. I missed. Turns out that's probably the easier way of doing it. Now, don't worry about that. That shouldn't happen inside because the receiver will keep it retained in place. Now what we're going to do is we're going to battle with the cogs for the selector. So I'm going to drop this in from this side because this is the side it came off from. I'm going to then bring this one through, and our D shape matches with the D shape there. And they compress in together like that. Again, it should be flat side, flat side. This selector, we know, tap it in there, connect it up. So that is our safe setting there. Okay, now if I look at our other selector, we should have a little notch on this one, which we do, which needs to be going basically horizontal straight back. So if I flip this over, what I need it to sit like is more or less, now if I go too far that way, another tooth that way, it's too far down. That is down slightly, that'll do, there we go. So I've lined it up as best I can, that's horizontal and that's horizontal. Now what I've got to do is try and juggle this to keep it in place whilst feeding the wires through there and the wires in there and keeping those cogs from moving too much. And then to make it even more complicated in a second, what I'm also going to have to do is come back. Actually, that's not too bad. I don't think I should be able to force that under there. Now that's going to go round and under if I lift the gearbox just a slight bit. Now, and then connect it through into the connector. I've put it in, that's lovely. So the cutoff lever sits in that gap there. It comes through underneath and hopefully you can see that it's connected into that loop there, and I can see it's pulling on that. Perfect. My selectors still appear to be aligned. Great. Next thing I'm going to do, just to start bringing some security to this, I'm just going to put the trigger pin in, and that should more or less go straight through. Just needs tapping in, and the teeth were on this side. I'm going to bring in the retaining plate, which I can see where the screw hole is in there. I'm just going to carefully manipulate that in. I'm going to bring in my little Phillips head. I'm going to go backwards, and yeah, I felt the click there to say it's located. I'm going to screw that down. There we go, that keeps that in place. Phew. Right, now I'm going to bring this selector back in and its screw, and I'm going to sit that on there, and I can feel straight away it's gone onto the selector as it should. I'm going to switch back to my 8 and I'm going to tighten that down. Again, I'm having to lean it just to keep it there in place. I'm going to tighten that back down in a moment. I'm going to bring my other selector in. Now I did say there was a little springy part which I have lost to the motors magnets. So there is a tiny little spring with a notch. I'm going to plug that into there and click it about. Works perfectly. I'm going to then plug this, retain that in, seat that so I can feel, and I can feel that it's moving that as well. We're in the safe position. I'm going to very quickly bring that in, keeping my thumb on the selector switch itself to retain it in. And we are tight, thank God. Come back and tighten this one off. Right, so we've now got selectors in place, thank the Lord. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the rear body pin. I'm just going to push that in just far enough that I can line that up, and then I'm going to bring in the retaining clip, and I'm going to fight with this for 30 seconds. There we go. So I managed to do that just with thumb pressure. That then will click through and secure in there. Happy days. So we're getting there now. I'm then going to bring in the mag release, drop in from that side, flip it, drop in the spring, drop in our button, which that has got a specific shape to it, a D shape to it. So that will only go on one specific way. Watch out for that. I'm going to drop that in. I'm guessing I'm going to need my friend the D6. Tighten that down a little bit, tighten it down a little bit more. Perfect. working spot on. Next thing, we're going to bring in the pistol grip. So I'm just going to gently look down the pistol grip. I fed the black wire in the very front hole. I'm going to feed the red wire in the back hole and carefully lower that down, making sure that the wires come directly into the pistol grip, they're not trapped under it. I'm then going to tighten down the 2 screws. I'm going to listen for the click. It's clicked into the threads and go down. Same on the other side. Go backwards for the threads. There we go, and then screw it down. Don't over tighten these, just, you know, nip it. There we go. Now the red comes up this side of the pistol grip. The black needs to come around to the back. Do not let it go in the way of the big hole in the middle there, because you're going to just crunch it up with your motor. I'm then going to bring our motor in, so the red terminal needs to be at the back. That drops in nice and easy. It should be springy up and down with no real issues. I'm then going to gently put, there's a little spade, just vertical spade, just by the red terminal. Make sure it's clicked on. If it just springs off easily off that connector, you've either not got it on the connector, or you might just need to nip the spade connector on the red or the black wire just a little bit tighter, female one, just to grip it a little bit better. Not too much, just enough to get a grip. So I'm going to bring the pistol grip base plate back in. So we're just going to drop that in place. It will only go one way round. Guessing T8 again. Bring out T8. There we go. Oh, no. Doesn't want to locate. There we go. Just maneuver it about a little bit, get it into place. That's one tight. I'm going to come back and check it once I've done the front one though. That's the front. There we go. Perfect, that's nice and tight. We'll bring the stock assembly back in. We're just going to feed the wire down and push it in there. I'm then going to very carefully balance this. It's never going to end well, is it? Balance this on here whilst it's plugged into that. I'm going to upend this and I'm going to insert that down to the bottom. And what I'm looking for is that basically in fact I'll take it back out and show you because it's falling apart. What I'm looking for is that it should sit like that down in the stock, like that, and you can almost see it looks a little bit like there's 2 notches for it, and those sort of line up with those notches, like that basically. That's how it should go, and that's what I'm hoping to achieve now. Again, there is no real trick to this. It's more dumb luck than anything, I think. So I'll just drop it in that way. It's dropped in still the wrong way over, so I just need to try and manipulate it around a little bit. Oops. Instead I've pulled the full screw out. I'll be back in a second when I've stopped. More dumb luck than anything, I've managed to basically drop it in the right place. I'm just going to move the screw about until I find those threads and start screwing it down. Just going to lift it up slightly so I know it's tightening down. And there we go, nice and tight in there. Close the battery hatch up, bring the stock back in, and the stock go back on. Pinch those 2 levers, that's the stock back on. Bring the upper back in. Bear with me 1 second. Now, just wanted to check something. The EK47 video, a little O-ring appeared, and one appeared during this video, and I did realise, I've discovered where they are from. They are actually off the outer barrel. They sit on the outer barrel almost like a stabiliser. So you just obviously need to watch for it out for it. Mine, I've just tested mine, it is back in there and it is on the outer barrel. It's sat somewhere, it's on the inner barrel, but it's retained in the outer barrel. So if you do see that little O-ring, it goes on your outer barrel. So I'm just going to slide this together. Again, I might need to just push on the bolt release just to allow it to go back in. I'm going to pull, brace there, just to keep it pulled back whilst I flip it over and I'm putting the pin in. Try again. Might need to tap that in. Right, so what I had to do there is I really had to brace this sort of against my hip, really put some force down and then tap it in, and it eventually dropped in. The D-shaped flat is against there. We have fully disassembled, reassembled for maintenance and repairs. I hope that's been helpful. I've enjoyed that. I dislike those stainless selectors, but I like the ambidextrous nature of it. Hope that's been useful to you. Please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.